I couldn't help but wonder. In a city that treats love like a limited-time offer, what happens when the man falling for you is already racing the clock, ready to lock in forever while you are still deciding if you even want the same destination? It started on a rainy Tuesday, the kind where the sky cannot commit, just like most of the men I have dated. I was at Le Bernardine's bar, nursing Sancerre, and pretending to edit an article about the new monogamy. Spoiler, it is mostly wishful thinking. That is when he walked in. Tall, silver threading through dark hair like quiet luxury. Navy suit cut so sharp it felt personal. He did not scan the room like younger men do, hungry, performing. He simply arrived, and the room adjusted. His name was Gabriel, venture capitalist, the kind who still reads actual books. He ordered the same wine, turned to me with the smallest, most knowing smile. "You are rushing it," he said. Not judging, just noticing. "It is a 16. Let it breathe." I raised an eyebrow. "And you are my personal sommelier now?" "No," he answered, eyes crinkling. "Just a man who hates watching good things suffer." Why did that land so deeply? Was it the voice, low, unhurried, like time was on his side? Or was it that he saw me without turning it into a move? Do men still notice like that? Or had I simply forgotten what it felt like? He did not try to impress. No watch flash. No name dropping. He asked real questions about the article, about why dating now feels like speed chess with no rules. I answered honestly. Something I usually save for my journal. By the second glass, my phone was forgotten. When was the last time I forgot my phone existed? When was the last time someone made me want to? We talked until the bar dimmed. When he suggested dinner, somewhere quieter, I said yes before my defenses could activate. 15 years between us. The realization hit like cool air through an open window. He had lived whole chapters, marriage, child, divorce, while I was still learning how to be an adult without training wheels. Does experience make him wiser or just faster? Is that sexy or a red flag? Yet there was something electric in the ease. The way he listened. No interruptions. The way he paid the check like chivalry had not expired. It was just waiting for the right moment. When did courtesy become revolutionary? I told myself it was just dinner. Research. But when he kissed me goodnight, slow, deliberate, like he owned time, something shifted inside me. The next morning, over coffee with Sasha and Lena, I confessed. "Sasha, 15 years? That is bold." Lena, smirking. "He is probably carrying baggage the size of a private jet." Proceed with caution. They were not wrong. But what if the baggage is just life? And what if his version comes with clarity instead of chaos? Our second date was at his place. Upper East Side penthouse, city framed like art. He cooked risotto with black truffles. Actual chopping, no takeout. Over dinner, he told me about the past. The marriage that ended peacefully. The daughter now in college. The years building something solid that eventually felt like a beautiful trap. I told him about my Messier history. Artists who loved drama more than me. Entrepreneurs who loved startups more than commitment. He did not judge. He nodded like he had heard the melody before, but still wanted my version. Why does that feel so rare? Then he kissed me again. Clothes fell away slowly, not from hesitation, but because neither of us rushed. He savored. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled like cedar and quiet wealth, I stared at the ceiling, asking questions I could not voice. Is this too easy? Too good? What if I am just the exciting chapter after the long stable one? The weeks turned into a delicious rhythm. Late dinners at impossible-to-book restaurants. Hamptons weekends, where he taught me to sail, terribly. Thoughtful texts at civilized hours. 3 weeks in, we met his closest friends for drinks at a low-key wine bar in Tribeca. They were warm, curious, and welcoming. One of the wives pulled me aside and said quietly, "He has not looked this excited in years. Just be gentle with him. He does not have endless time to play games." I smiled, nodded, but inside I felt the first tiny prick of pressure. Was I playing games? Or was I simply living at a different speed? At 6 weeks, he gave me the vintage Cartier watch. Because you said you loved old timepieces that tell stories, he said. You deserve one with history. My heart flipped. Is this romantic or moving too fast? Am I romanticizing because he is older, or is he actually different? At 8 weeks, we had our first real double date with Sasha and her boyfriend. Gabriel was charming, attentive, and asked questions about Sasha's work, remembering details from our earlier conversations. Later that night, Sasha texted me. He is incredible. But he kept talking about building a life and the next chapter. Girl, he is in fast-forward mode. Lena called the next day. He is talking about the future like it is already decided. Are you ready for that? Or are you just enjoying the ride? I did not have an answer. At 10 weeks, he brought up marriage. Not hypothetically. Specifically. I have done the long engagement thing, it did not work. When it is right, it is right. Why wait? I froze. Everything with him felt perfect, kind, attentive, passionate, steady. So why did my stomach knot when he talked about rings and timelines? Because 5 months is not enough to know someone forever? Because I'm still figuring out who I am? Because he has decided I am his future before I have decided he is mine? The questions kept coming. Did I even want marriage? Did I want kids? I had always assumed I would, someday. But someday felt abstract. With Gabriel, someday had a deadline. He mentioned children casually, once over brunch. I would love to have one more. A little piece of us. I know I am older, but I would be present, involved, all in. He smiled like it was the most natural thing in the world. I smiled back. Inside, I was spinning. Do I want kids at all? Or am I just afraid to admit I might not? What if I say yes to please him and regret it later? What if I say no and lose him? We spent a weekend in the Hudson Valley. Just the two of us. Long walks, fireside wine, hours of talking. He told me how he regretted not starting a second family sooner in his first marriage. I was too cautious. Too focused on work. I will not make that mistake again. I listened. I nodded. I wondered if his clarity was beautiful or terrifying. Was he offering me a life I actually wanted, or was he offering me the life he needed at this stage? The first real crack came at a dinner with his friends. One wife, tipsy and well-meaning, said, Gabriel is on a mission these days. Better get ready, he moves fast when he knows. Laughter. I smiled. Inside, I felt the air thin. Later alone, I asked him, Are you rushing because you are older? Because you feel time running out? He did not flinch. I am not rushing because I am old. I am rushing because I am clear. I wasted years in the past being cautious. I will not do that again. When something feels this right, I do not want to lose it to indecision. I searched his face. And what if I am not there yet? What if I need more time? He looked at me, really looked. Then we have a problem. Because I do not want to be someone's maybe. I want to be someone's yes. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. 2 nights later, he took me to the rooftop of his building. City lights everywhere. He pulled out a small velvet box. Not a proposal. A promise ring. An interim step, he said. So you know I am serious. So we can start building toward the rest. It was beautiful. Vintage emerald. Exactly my taste. And it terrified me. I did not say yes. I did not say no. I said, I need to think. He nodded. Calm. Certain. Take the time you need. But I will not wait forever. I cannot. I left with the box in my bag, heavier than it should have been. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Sophie, his daughter. Hi, Ava. Dad does not know I am texting. He is talking about eloping next month. Said he does not want to waste any more years. I have never seen him like this. Please do not hurt him. But if you are not sure, tell him soon. He deserves clarity. I stared at the message. He was ready to elope. Next month. After 5 months, I looked at the ring on my nightstand. Everything about him was perfect on paper. So why did forever feel like a deadline instead of a dream? I couldn't help but wonder. When a man knows exactly what he wants and exactly when he wants it, is the real risk saying yes too soon? Or saying no to the man who might be the last great love you will ever have? I left Gabriel's building with the small velvet box burning a hole in my bag. The promise ring sat inside like a question mark made of emerald. Not a proposal, he had said. An interim step. But the weight of it felt anything but interim. The next 48 hours were a blur of sleepless nights and endless loops in my head. I kept replaying his words. I cannot wait forever. I kept seeing the calm certainty in his eyes when he said it. And I kept asking myself the same unanswerable things. Am I hesitating because of the age gap? Or because 5 months is simply not enough time to decide forever? Or worst of all, because deep down I am not sure I want the forever he is offering. I needed perspective. I needed my people. So I called an emergency brunch at our favorite spot in the West Village. The one with the bottomless mimosas and the corner table that feels like a confessional. Sasha arrived first, eyes wide, already sensing the crisis from my 3-word text. We need to talk. Lena showed up 5 minutes later, sunglasses on, coffee already in hand, looking like she had come prepared to either celebrate or stage an intervention. I placed the velvet box in the center of the table like it was evidence in a trial. Sasha gasped. Is that? Promise ring, I said, not an engagement ring. He called it an interim step. He wants me to wear it while we build toward the rest. His words. Lena took off her sunglasses. Jesus, after 5 months, that is not a step. That is a leap. Sasha leaned forward, voice soft and dreamy. But look at it. It is gorgeous. Vintage emerald. He clearly knows you. He listened. That is romantic. Maybe he's just sure. Some people get sure fast. Maybe this is what love looks like when someone has already lived enough to know what they want. Lena snorted. Or maybe this is what love looks like when someone is terrified of running out of time. He is 15 years ahead. He has already done the marriage, the kid, and the divorce. Now he wants the sequel and he wants it now. That is not romance. That is urgency. Sasha frowned. You are being too cynical. Age does not automatically mean desperation. It can mean clarity. He is not some 25-year-old who does not know what commitment looks like. He has seen what happens when you waste time on the wrong person. And I have seen what happens when you rush into the right person too fast. Lena shot back. You wake up 5 years later, wondering why you said yes before you were ready. Ava is still figuring out her 30s. He is already planning his 60s. That gap is not just numbers. It is different life stages, different priorities, different urgency. I stared at the ring, turning it in the light. He mentioned kids again last week. Casually. Like it was obvious. One more. A little piece of us. He said he regretted not starting a second family sooner. I smiled. I nodded. But inside I was screaming. Do I even want children? I have never been sure. Sometimes I think yes. Sometimes I think no. Sometimes I think maybe I just like the idea of having the choice. But with him, the choice starts feeling like a ticking clock. Sasha reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You do not have to decide everything right now. You are allowed to say, I love you, but I need more time. Lena raised an eyebrow. And he is allowed to say, I do not have more time to give. That is the brutal part of dating someone older. Their timeline is shorter. They cannot afford to wait while you figure out if you even want the same destination. The table went quiet. The mimosas sat untouched. Then Sasha, voice quieter now. I keep thinking about the stereotype. Everyone assumes women are the ones desperate for marriage and babies. That we are the ones with the biological clock. But what if we are not? What if some of us want to travel, build careers, stay single longer, or never have kids at all? And what if the man in his 50s is the one with the ticking clock? It flips everything we are taught to believe. Lena nodded slowly. Exactly. The age gap is not the problem. The problem is mismatched readiness. A man can be 45 and terrified of commitment. A woman can be 28 and dying to settle down. It is not about the number on the birth certificate. It is about who is ready for what chapter, and whether those chapters can overlap without one person feeling dragged or the other feeling abandoned. I looked at both of them. So what do? Tell him I need a year? 2 years? What if he walks away? What if I let the best man I have ever met slip away because I am too scared to jump? Sasha's eyes filled. Then you will know you were not ready. And that is okay. Heartbreak is survivable. Regret is heavier. Lena reached for the ring box and closed it gently. Or you wear it, you try. You see if the pace starts to feel like excitement instead of pressure. But if it does not, if every mention of marriage and kids makes your stomach drop, then you owe it to both of you to be honest, before he buys plane tickets for an elopement. I took the box back. It felt heavier than before. That night, I sat on my couch, the ring on the coffee table, staring at it like it might speak. Is the age gap really the issue? Or is it just the easiest thing to blame when two people want different speeds? A 25-year-old man could pressure me into marriage tomorrow. A 50-year-old woman could want to stay single forever. The number is not the villain. The mismatch is. And yet, I kept coming back to his face on the rooftop. Calm, certain, loving. He was not trying to trap me. He was trying to claim what felt real to him. The question was whether it felt real enough to me to risk everything, or whether the fear of losing my own timeline was already louder than the love. I still did not know what I would choose. But I knew one thing. The clock was ticking for both of us. Just not in the same direction. 3 days after the brunch, I still had not put on the promise ring. It sat in its box on my dresser like a polite ultimatum. Gabriel had not pressured me with calls or texts. He simply sent one message each morning. Thinking of you. Simple, steady, almost too steady. I told myself I needed one more night with him. Face to face, no interruptions, no rooftop romance. To see if the pressure was real or if I was manufacturing it out of fear. I agreed to dinner at his place. No grand plan. Just us, takeout from his favorite Italian spot, wine, and the kind of quiet that usually felt safe. When I arrived, he opened the door with the same warm smile that had hooked me months ago. But tonight, something was different. His eyes looked tired, the silver at his temples catching the hallway light in a way that suddenly made him seem older, not in a bad way, just more mortal. We ate on the couch instead of the dining table. Casual. Comfortable. Until he set his glass down, looked at me, and said the words I had been dreading. I booked us a weekend in Napa next month. Just the two of us. Thought it would be the perfect place to celebrate. If you are ready. I felt the air shift. Celebrate what? He reached for my hand. Us. The future. Whatever comes after the promise ring. I want to make it official. I want to start planning. I want to know we are moving forward together. I pulled my hand back gently. Gabriel, we talked about this. I am still thinking. I need time. His jaw tightened, not dramatically, just enough to notice. I have given you time. I'm not asking for forever tomorrow. I am asking for a direction, a yes in principle. Because I cannot keep investing in someone who is still deciding if she wants to invest back. The room felt smaller. I searched for the man who had once savored every moment, who had listened without rushing. This version felt different, more impatient, more entitled to an answer. I am not deciding against you, I said quietly. I am deciding about me, about what I want. Marriage, kids, the whole picture. I thought you understood that. He stood up, walked to the window, stared at the city lights for a long beat before turning back. When he spoke, his voice was lower, almost raw. I do understand. But understanding does not stop the clock. I have already lived half my life wondering if I would ever feel this again. I am not willing to spend the second half wondering if I should have fought harder for it. If you are not sure after 5 months, Ava, how much longer do you think it will take? A year? 2? Because I do not have that kind of runway. There it was. The part of him I had not seen before. Not cruelty, not anger. Just quiet, unflinching pragmatism. The kind that comes from someone who has already buried one marriage, raised one child, built one empire, and now wants the rest of his story to feel complete. He was not trying to trap me. He was trying to finish his book, and he wanted me to be the final chapter. I stood too. And what if I am not ready to be anyone's final chapter? What if I still want to write a few more of my own before I sign off on forever? He looked at me then, and for the first time I saw something flicker behind the calm certainty. Not fear, not sadness, resignation. Then we are at an impasse, he said softly. Because I cannot be your maybe. And you cannot be my deadline. We stood there in the middle of his perfect living room, the takeout containers still warm on the coffee table, the city humming indifferently below us. No shouting. No tears. Just the sound of two timelines colliding and refusing to merge. I left that night without the ring, without a decision. Without knowing if I had just walked away from the love of my life or saved myself from a version of love that would always feel one season ahead of me. The questions followed me into the elevator, down the street, and into the sleepless hours after. Is the age gap the villain? Or is it just the spotlight that reveals how differently we measure time? A man in his 20s could demand commitment tomorrow. A woman in her 40s could want to stay free forever. The number is not the problem. The mismatch is... And yet, I could still feel his hand in mine from earlier that evening. Steady, warm, sure. I could still hear the quiet heartbreak in his voice when he said he could not be my maybe. I could still see the man who had once savored every second with me, now counting them like currency he was afraid to lose. I do not know what I will choose. But I know this. Love is not always about finding the right person. Sometimes it is about finding the right rhythm. And sometimes the most painful truth is that two people can be perfect for each other. I walked home through the December streets. The city already half lit for New Year's, lights twinkling like they were celebrating something I could not yet join. My bag felt lighter without the ring, but my chest felt heavier than it had in months. The night replayed in fragments. His calm certainty, the quiet resignation in his voice, the moment he admitted he could not be my maybe. And still, I had no answer. That night, I could not sleep. I sat on my fire escape wrapped in a blanket, watching the skyline, letting the questions unfold one after another like pages I had been too afraid to read. In 5 years, I will be 5 years older. Still the same person who loves late nights, spontaneous bars, and last-minute parties where the music is too loud and the conversation's too honest. I will still want to dance until my feet hurt, to say yes to a rooftop drink at 2 a.m., to chase the feeling of being alive in a city that never sleeps. And Gabriel? In 5 years, he will be 15 years ahead of where he is now. He will still be brilliant, still kind, still the man who makes everything feel steady. But will he still want to chase the night? Or will the thought of crowded bars and late hours feel exhausting instead of exciting? Will he prefer quiet dinners at home, a movie on the couch, the soft glow of a lamp instead of neon? Will he look at me and see someone who still needs the chaos of youth while he finally wants peace? These are not cruel thoughts. They are reasonable ones. They are the kind of questions you owe yourself when the age difference is not just a number, but a different rhythm of living. I love the idea of growing old with someone. But do I want to grow old at the same speed? Or am I signing up for a life where I'm always the one suggesting one more drink, while he is already thinking about the cab home? Did he ever think about this? Or is his clarity so complete that he assumes we will both evolve in the same direction? Does he picture us in 5 years, 10 years, 20, me still chasing the city's pulse while he longs for stillness? Or does he believe love is strong enough to bridge that gap, to make me want the quiet evenings as much as he does, to make him suddenly crave the late nights he once outgrew? I do not doubt his love. I doubt the future we would share when the sun sets earlier for one of us than the other. The city kept glittering below me, indifferent to my timeline. And I kept wondering if the real heartbreak is not losing him, but realizing that the life I want most might look completely different from the one he needs. Maybe that is the truest part of the age gap, not the years themselves, but the different horizons they create. One person is looking forward to the next adventure. The other is looking forward to the comfort of having already had them. I still do not know what I will choose. But tonight, for the first time, I let myself admit that walking away might not mean I loved him less. It might mean I loved myself enough to protect the life I still want to live. Thank you for walking this story with me. If you have ever been with someone whose timeline felt completely different from yours, faster, slower, completely out of sync, drop your story in the comments. Did you speed up? Did you slow down? Did you walk away? What did the clock finally tell you? I will be reading every single one. Because maybe the hardest question is not, is he the one? It is, are we even on the same time zone? Thanks for watching.